Stories fall into kind of three different categories. It's either fable, fiction, or fact. And unpacking those and knowing the difference will help you steer your audience to the right way. So let's start with facts. Facts are true stories. They are non-fiction. They're based on real life events. They're based on history. They could be based on your personal event. It's the story that was based on fact. It's quite an easy story to tell. Now, people tell their stories for effect and for to build a backstory to where they're going, and that's perfect. Use the fact story as fact. Do not bring in non-facts into the fact story. And simple ways, true story, let me tell you, just the other day, this is what I was doing. That's a fact story, that's a true story. Then we get to fiction. Well, fiction it's fantasy. It's once upon a time. It's fluffy unicorns and goblins and aliens and galaxies far, far away. And it's all that. And if you start your story off with once upon a time, people will believe the story because it's a fantasy story and it's filled with whatever. You can have, little orange furry people running around. You can have whatever you want. People believe it because it's a believable fantasy. And then people come out of fantasy and go back to reality. And most adults are able to make that switch over pretty easily. And you can take your audience down a fantasy story, but bring them back to reality at the end and engage with them then with adult-to-adult transactions. And it's fine. And sometimes a fantasy story is great for entertainment or to make a certain emphasis, or just to have a series of movies about aliens and forces and all sorts of great things. It's perfect. The third category then is the fables. Now fables, I want to bring in two things here because it's either a legend or a fable. Now legends and fables are stories that are a bit of both. They based on historical fact, but they've got part of fantasy in them. A legend and a fable are kind of the same sort of thing, except one has talking animals in it. But it's interesting because if you start a story off as legend has it, then people who already engage in that sort of stuff, well, yeah, it could be true, but we know it's not true, so it's okay. And don't run a legend off as fact. Now legends are mostly used to teach lessons and to bring home a message of some form of historical believing. It's also really good for marketing purposes. A lot of brands are based on legends, especially in the wine industry. And the kind of entertainment and location-based hospitality, a lot of legends, which is brilliant. People know the difference, and you can separate those out by knowing where one stops and where one starts, and legends and stuff. And then you can bring in the fables, and the fables are, like I said, it's legends with talking animals, so Aesop's fables and talking donkeys and stuff, where we learn lessons from inanimate objects or animals, and the donkey speaks the truth to us, therefore we can do that. So you've got fables, fantasy, and facts. Know the difference, and whatever you do, do not mix them up. Your audience just gets confused.
The end.